So, good afternoon. Welcome, everybody, to the latest episode of The Renny Show with me, Rachel, and with Jenny. Hi, Jenny.
Hi, good afternoon, everybody. I hope everybody is feeling hale and hearty, fine and fit on this slightly grey day. A bit chilly round the edges.
Just a
It's
little
definitely
bit.
December, isn't it? Yeah.
Well, we're hoping today to warm those edges up for all of you because, in a slight change to the scheduled guest appearance we had today, which has had to be put back to another day, Jenny and I are going to do a show on the theme of pantomimes, that great British tradition. It brings
Oh
so
no,
much
we're not.
fun and oh yes, it is. See, it's going to be one of those shows, isn't it? So strap
Yeah.
yourselves in, folks, because it could be a crazy one. So we're going to talk all things pantomimes, and I suspect there will be some quite interesting things that potentially come out of this. So yeah, let's go
Well,
for it.
I I thought in light of our last minute flexibility that I have written it down because I don't think I could do this off by heart, but I will read it to you.
Oh,
So pantomime, did you know that pantomime has its roots in 16th century Italian entertainment? Um,
wow.
and dance and music and acrobatics and tumbling and a cast of stock characters that were all mischievous. And our current kind of pantomime owes much to Victorians, those fabulous Victorians, whose innovations included outlandish costumes, comedy, celebrity cameos, and audience participation. And we love a bit of audience participation, don't we?
Oh
Um,
no, we don't.
and Oh, yes, we do. It's behind you. All of those. So those additions really kind of cemented um into that popular art form, into the pantomimes that we love and know today. And it wasn't until after 1843, when theatre licensing restrictions were lifted, that they were allowed to use words. So a lot of it early on was silent.
Really?
Um, because of
Wow.
theatre restrictions. So once those restrictions were lifted, that's when you got the addition of my favourite witty puns, wordplay, um, fairy tales, magic animals, um, principal boys and gender switching. So you had pantomime dames,
Yeah.
principal boys, all of those things became integral. And as did any topic was fair game. So social satire, current events,
Yeah.
politics, all of those things were all amalgamated to become the kind of pantomime that we know and love. And it's still quintessentially, I think, very British. I don't think my source was the V&A, was the
Oh, okay.
Victoria and
Yeah.
Albert Museum. They have a whole thing about pantomimes and musical theatre. So I think that I don't think it's done anywhere else in Europe. I think the we're the only people that do it still.
Yeah, I feel that that's the truth. Must admit, I was thinking once we decided to do this as a theme, does anywhere else do it? And I wasn't 100% sure, but I don't think anyone else does. I've not heard that anyone else does. So yeah, and I thought I'd wear my sparkly jingly bell Christmas earrings in honour of our festive theme today as well. Okay, well, thank you for sharing that, Jenny, because that's fascinating. I've definitely learned something. Every day's a school day and all that. So if you're listening, then please do put comments in. Let us know that you're there. If you've got any questions or anything you want to add, do let us know and we will include you in the conversation. So without further ado, let's dive in. So my first question for you, Jenny, have you ever appeared in a pantomime?
Do you know, I have.
Oh, love it.
It was a very long time ago.
Okay.
It was when I lived in Iraq. I lived in Baghdad for a few years as
Yeah.
a teenager, and they used to put on the kind of expats, multiple expats in those days, and they used to put on a pantomime, an amateur amdram pantomime every year. And on this, this is quite a pantomime story now I think about it. I had flown out for my Christmas holidays and was involved in painting the scenery
Okay.
and backstage stuff, which I was absolutely happy with. And then at the last minute, the good fairy, I can't even remember what the title of the pantomime was, but as at the last minute, the good fairy had an attack of what was commonly known in those days as Baghdad belly, and was unable to leave the house um, with they asked me if I would step in
Okay.
at the last minute, which was utterly terrifying and just completely not something I'd even thought about ever doing. But I think I was the only person who was still left standing at that point. So and I only had to do one performance, so it was all right.
Yeah.
But yes, I was probably a very dodgy good fairy, completely ad-libbed, because it was literally within an hour's notice. So there was no time.
Right.
There was there was no time. So if in doubt, they said just wave your wand, which is what I did. There was a lot of wand waving and
Yeah.
not a lot of words. But the show must go on. What about
Absolutely.
what about you, Rachel?
Well, funnily enough, the answer is yes here too. So when I was 16, GCSE year, I wonder if I was 15, it might have been the year before, but it was whichever year that we did our work experience at school. And one of the things, a few of us got together and decided to do extra on top of that. And so we got together and we created a pantomime that we then took to local infant schools to perform, including like the infant school where I'd gone. And it was just great fun because obviously you can just be so over the top, can't you? There's kind of, obviously it's supposed to be funny, and hopefully we were funny. I can't even really remember a great deal what it was about. Oh, and there's a lovely comment here from Karen Walters. You are still a good fairy, lovely Jenny, isn't? And absolutely true, Karen. I'm right with you. So yeah, we were actually acknowledged for it in terms of an award that we got at school, because we did our work experience, we did some community work, which was this pantomime, and there was something else as well. So we all got this award, which was really nice. And then a few years ago, in a networking meeting of all places, for our Christmas, our last meeting before Christmas, this was before the pandemic, three of us decided we were going to perform a little pantomime skit. And one of the chaps, David O'Brien, if he's listening, or if any of you know him, he's a long time performer in amateur theatre, and he's fantastic. So he wrote a little short sort of 5-minute panto skit, and we had not long to learn it, and it was all a bit crazy, but that added to the fun. So yeah, it was definitely good fun. Oh dear. Happy memories.
Terrifying and good fun at the same time.
Yeah, definitely.
Well, my first question for you, Rach, is what do you love most about the genre that is pantomime?
I think there's something very freeing about pantomime, because there's no holds barred in terms of, like you said before, there's men playing women, women playing men. It's that kind of anything goes mentality, and the fun element. I can remember seeing pantos as a kid where there's loads of innuendos, but that all goes straight over your head. You haven't got a clue as a kid. It's not till you're an adult and you go back and watch them. Oh, and you're all laughing, and the kids are like, "Oh, what does that mean?" Or it just goes straight over their head. So I think the fun factor, and that it's always so silly, because the dame is usually a really vibrant, bright, crazy, silly character, which on the one hand seems a bit mean that we're then laughing at that person, but then that's the point. and that's okay. That laughter at this image of, you know, the dame usually being maybe a bit overweight and you know, very buxom, shall we say, and crazy makeup and crazy wig and crazy clothes that are usually quite garish in color rather than, you know, nice and tasteful. But it's okay. It's an outlet for people to be able to laugh together at silly things, and I just think that's a really, really positive thing. What about for you?
I think, yeah, all of that. I mean, Pantomime Dame would be the thing that you wanted to play, wouldn't it? Because the
Of course.
costumes were
Yeah.
the intricacy of the set design and the cleverness. I think for me, it's the
Yeah.
cleverness of the writing, the way
Yeah.
that it's multi-level, as you describe, and the ingenuity and creativity of the costumes, but particularly um the dame, but also that the animals that they have, and that
Yeah.
it's the ingenuity of it all. And I love the probably I love it more as an adult than as a child. I was always
Yeah.
terrified they were going to pick me because I didn't want to go on the stage. There
Yeah.
was that thing, isn't there, that you desperately don't want them to pick you because you don't want to make a fool of yourself. On the other hand, you
You
desperately
also
do
desperately
want
want
to
to be
pick.
picked.
Yeah. But I think that the joy of the all of those phrases that we, oh no it isn't, oh yes I
Yeah.
want you to
Yeah.
shout out behind, it's behind you, what I can't it's completely inane. And it's just hilarious, and these children it's behind you, it's
Yeah.
behind, oh it is, oh yes it is, all of that stuff. Just that the audience participation, and that there isn't a line, is there, between the stage and and I love the
Yeah.
fact that they take popular songs and they rewrite lyrics. I just think that's so
Yeah.
clever. So the wit and the ingenuity of the script is just is amazing. I love that.
Yeah, and I think it's one of those great opportunities to release the inner child. You know, I posted about this last week. That
Yes, you did.
to be able to let go and be as silly as the children are being without fear. You know, you're doing it sat next to other people that are doing exactly the same, so you can let go
Yeah.
without fear. And I think there's something really lovely about that. Yeah.
And there is that multi-generational as well. You
Yeah,
mentioned it about that, obviously the innuendo, but there's also that opportunity for, grandparents, parents, children, all
exactly.
ages. It's one of those things that appeals to great. So it's a real connector, isn't it? Connector of generations, which I also love.
Yeah, definitely. I'm with you on that.
So yeah.
Yeah. And you're not going to believe this, anyone that's listening. But my next question, you know, we don't tell each other what these questions are going to be, but my
There we go.
next question leads on fantastically well from that one, because my question is, what's your least favourite thing about pantomimes? So opposite end of the
As a
spectrum.
child, yes, as a child, some of the bigness,
Yeah,
the huge kind of caricature was a bit scary. So clowns, I think I unwittingly, probably on a sort of subconscious level, I think I recognize that sometimes clowns, although being made fun of and appearing to love the whole slapstick, there's a kind of inner sadness, isn't there? There's a
yeah,
pathos about clowning sometimes. And so sometimes I think, as a small, again, because children are just a bundle of feeling, aren't they? They
yeah,
don't feel, they haven't learnt to filter it. So I think I was somehow, I connected to that without knowing why. So
yeah,
sometimes it was a bit overwhelming, that kind of the caricaturing.
yeah, definitely. And I think that for some children, much of it depends on age, but also personality. For some children, they find the villain actually really scary. And, you know, when you look
Mm.
at it from an adult perspective, the villain is actually, I mean, you know, they're not actually scary. They're usually a bit ridiculous, you know, in the way they act and the things they say. But for very little children, you can see exactly why that would be perhaps a bit overwhelming and a bit scary, and some
Mm.
children don't like going to pantomimes. I mean, my memories are always that I really enjoyed going. I don't particularly remember any awful things. I mean, I don't know, my mum might be able to remind me of anything, I'm not sure. But, I think my memories of it are generally very good. I think the one thing I would say these days, my least favourite thing, is water pistols, because there's always water at pantomimes, isn't there? And depending where you sit, you're going to get wet. Again, it's all part of the fun, and skin's waterproof, isn't it? So,
Unless you're, I suppose, unless you're in the gods, then you're all right,
yes,
aren't you? Up in the back, up high in the back
yeah,
seat. That was also something like least favorite. If you were late getting tickets,
yeah,
some of those theatres are quite steep,
yeah,
and so you're sitting there thinking, oh, it's a long way down,
yeah. Sort of holding on to
and
your
it,
seat. Yeah.
yeah, it's a bit scary that you were so far away. So that would be the other thing.
Love it.
So, funny enough, my next question is to say that obviously pantomime has become a term that kind of can also describe chaotic nonsense at work.
Yes.
So, so my next question is, what's your experience of real life pantomime? Anything
Ooh, I
you'd like
like
to
it.
share?
Real life pantomime. Oh, goodness me. I'm sure we've probably all got lots of examples in the workplace of real life pantomime. Um, that's a really interesting one. I'm just trying to think of specific examples. I mean, I suppose in the sense of the work environment stuff, the word pantomime, the meaning changes. It becomes all a bit more serious, doesn't it? Because pantomime is
Mm,
generally, very light-hearted and silly. But when you start referring to the shenanigans in a workplace as pantomime, it's usually a bit derogatory, isn't it? Because what's
yeah,
going on is
yeah, it is. Yeah.
is either a bit crazy, or
Slapstick. Yeah.
yeah, it's almost like you couldn't write this stuff. It shouldn't be happening, kind of thing. So it's very much a negative thing. So I guess one of the things that comes to mind, and I've experienced it on a few occasions, is when change management is not done in a way that empowers people. People aren't kept informed. If you want people to go along with cultural change, or even lower level tactical change. It really helps for people to understand why, and to see the background to it, to understand what the vision is, so you're then all working towards the same thing. And obviously you do a lot of work in work in corporate spaces, Jenny, and
Yeah.
I imagine that's something that you come across a lot. The work culture of how people are managed in terms of big changes. It's really important, and it can be so and I remember feeling really disempowered because we weren't involved in being told what the changes were all about and why, and things were just sprung on us. And at that point you have to just get on with it. You have to roll with the punches, but you just know it could have been so much smoother if you'd all been brought on board and kept informed. And you're then left thinking, well, but why would they not tell us? It's utterly ridiculous, because the end result is that the entire workforce then ends up unhappy. What's been achieved? Not a lot. So yeah, I think there's probably quite a lot of that goes on. What's your experience?
I think it's the as you said earlier, that those characters, so personalities and characters can be quite forceful, can't they?
Yeah,
And sometimes they can what works in a pantomime um is because everybody's working together and people have their own roles.
yeah,
Um, and everybody understands. So you mentioned earlier, everybody understands the villain's not really a villain. The the good fairy, well, of course she does magic, in case any children listening, but that those roles are clearly defined and everybody kind of knows And I think the danger in real life pantomime is that those roles haven't been clearly defined,
Yeah.
and that there can be a lot of misunderstanding caused by those roles not being clearly defined, and people not understanding necessarily what those roles might be, or really understanding. You can get a lot of conflict, can't you?
Yeah.
So that the fight scenes in pantomime are, play fighting. In
Yeah.
real life, they can be conflict can result as a because people don't understand personalities, or they don't
Yeah.
really like each other. It can be a it can be a bit of a free for all. So I think, along with really clear, we talked about how fabulous the playwriting, the screenwriting, the
Yeah.
script was. So I think, in a real life pantomime, being having a good script, clarity
Yeah.
around roles,
Absolutely.
and who's doing what is really really helpful.
Yeah, absolutely. And that completely speaks to the example I gave as well about change management. It's exactly that. If we'd been given a script, if we'd been given a clearly defined role, we would have all known where we stood, and we all then pulled together in the same direction, which,
Yeah.
yeah, it's a great analogy, actually. The pantomime being, having that script and the defined roles and everything. It's a really powerful analogy, I think.
Who knew? You see, I love the fact that we never are we never obviously the whole point of the whole premise of the show is that these
Yeah.
questions are live, unrehearsed. Everything's unrehearsed because it's about in the being in the moment.
Yeah.
But I love the way that they so often
Yeah, they just
seamless
segue
joining
together. It's
together.
brilliant.
Yeah, yeah.
Oh dear. Okay. So my next question then, obviously you told us at the beginning some information about just how long pantomimes have been going, and where it all came from. So why do you think pantomimes are such a long-standing thing in Britain?
Oh, that's a really good question. Why do I think? I think partly because of the tradition.
Yeah.
So I think the framework, and I think this applies in business as well, actually. Now I'm just thinking off the top of my
Yeah,
head
yeah.
out loud. So I think what's happened, what I love about is the evolution. So
Yeah.
things have it started in it had a particular shape back in the 16th century,
Yeah.
and it was essentially mime. So it was silent, and the music was added later,
Right.
um, and then and then as rules changed, and every generation added. It's that creator. It's that fabulous. I think one of the things this country is really good at is creativity and innovation. So
Yeah.
I think we love taking something and going, oh, what could we do with it? Could we make it bigger? Could we make it bolder? Could we do this with it? Could we do that? And I think it's a real testament to the creative arts that people
Yeah.
said, oh, we could do this. And obviously some of the things I read but didn't include were things like set design and the technical. There were some amazing things that happened,
Yeah.
the technology. So as technology uh, moved along, there was amazing set design and technical wizardry. I remember once going to see it was pantomime in Coventry, at
Yeah.
the theatre in Coventry when I was little, and it had Anita Harris in it, and there was a flying carpet. I think it was Aladdin.
Yeah.
Um, and there was a flying carpet, and this carpet was supposed to come across the stage, and
Yeah.
then it was supposed to fly up high, and it got stuck.
Oh no.
And poor Anita flew in to the middle of the stage, and she was supposed to rise up, and she was doing this with her hands at the side of the stage, kind of signaling
Yeah.
desperately to the people in the wings that her carpet got stuck. So I think the reason that it was, and of course we all thought it was hilarious. Nothing better is there than something going
Yeah.
wrong. Um, So we all, I think that innovation and the way that you can grow it, and every generation makes it its own, and there isn't one way of doing it. There's lots of, there's everybody. My friend's son is in a pantomime this week, and it's Snow White and the Magnificent Seven.
Oh, okay.
So it has a cowboy theme.
Yeah, I can imagine. Yeah.
So and that's the thing, is it, that iteration, evolution,
Yeah.
creativity, all of that, but underlying that great British love of slapstick
Yeah.
and clever humor and plays on words, and Shakespeare, he did the same thing, didn't he? That
Yeah.
kind of
Yeah.
clever use of language, and play. I think that's why it stood the test of time, and probably because it's not fixed. And as you said, anything goes. So there's a kind of inclusivity, isn't there, in the
Yeah.
fact that anybody can have a go. Anybody
Yeah.
can have a go. Kids get up on stage. It can all go wrong. If it goes wrong, everybody just laughs even more.
Exactly. It makes me even more laughter, doesn't it, when things go wrong?
Yeah.
Yeah.
So I think that and that sense of community and the things that we talked about, that intergenerational,
Yeah.
your granny takes you because um they went, and you go because you take your children because you'd gone as a child and you loved it, and things have moved on. So yeah, I think that's why.
Yeah, definitely. I'd absolutely agree wholeheartedly with all of that. And I think, for me, it says something that so many famous people want to be in pantomimes. TV stars, athletes, people that do serious jobs, perhaps the rest of the time. Um, they're still drawn year on year to being in pantomime, which I think says a
Hmm.
lot about how fun it is to be a part of it. What an experience it must be. And I think what you've said there. I think it's a wonderful mix. You talk about the innovation and that it doesn't have to stand still, and it can evolve. I think that set against the backdrop of it being a really traditional thing. It's traditionally done in the festive season, and there's lots of tradition related to it, which could make it seem stuffy and boring and not moving forward. But it always does move forward, and like you say, with adding the modern songs, but changing the words to fit. And we went a couple of Christmases ago, might even have been last Christmas, to the local pantomime here. I think it was 2 Christmases ago, and there was a comedian playing the kind of Buttons role, and he was just fantastic because the exchanges he had with the audience, and he'd ask people their names and he'd talk to them and things, and then he'd keep referring to them. And so it goes back again to what you said about that audience participation. It doesn't matter how it evolves and changes, that stays the same. The connection and rapport with the audience, the connection of the intergenerational element of it as a family. There's just so much about it that's I guess fun is probably the overarching word I'd use, and that's why I think it will never die out, because it's just so much fun. It's fun to do, it's fun to be in it, it's fun to watch it. It's just fun.
Yeah, fun. Yeah.
Yeah. Fantastic. So
So
your turn.
is it my turn?
Yeah.
So my question, my last question is,
Yeah.
if you were choosing character to be, who would be your favorite pantomime character?
Ooh. Um, I mean, so many ways you could go with this with answering this one. There's a big part of me that, as a child, always loved the kind of the princess characters. I'm not particularly princessy these days, but I really, really loved those sorts of characters, which again, I suppose it extends to the fairy, the fairy godmother type figures as well, because they always got to wear something sparkly, and they had a wand and they did magic. So I guess, we've had a comment from Karen again. Love the chat today. Thank you, Karen. I used to love taking my boys to the pantomime, watching them get absorbed in it. Such memories. They probably need therapy now. Well, if that's the case, maybe we all do. That's probably not a bad shout. But yeah, there's so much to love about panto characters, but the thought of being the fairy who comes up in a poof of smoke and helps to make things better. I suppose I'd want to be a good character. I wouldn't want to be a villainous character, I suppose. And really, I guess the ultimate in good characters is the kind of fairy godmother type thing. So yeah, that's what I'd pick. How about you?
Well, that's really funny. Because that surprises me. So if I could choose, the dame, I would be the dame.
Yeah.
And the reason, sadly, is because they are larger than life. They are the most.
Yeah.
They are, they're the kind of aren't they? The stealer of the show, other than small children, but perhaps.
Yeah.
But they are they're quirky, they're different, they're not what you expect them to be. And when I was thinking about this question, and I thought, oh, would I want to be the fairy? And I thought, no, I don't want to be the fairy. But I do also quite like the idea of being the villain. Because it's that thing about, boo every time, boo, shout louder when they're. So I do quite like that kind of because as you say, we know that they're not really really bad, are they? And also they always get their comeuppance, don't they? They always are,
yes.
always get their
comeuppance rule, isn't it?
Whether it's the custard pie or whatever it is. But the pantomime, the dame, and again, I think it's because of the drama. The drama of the costumes. I just think the drama of the costumes and the larger than life and completely over the top. So yeah, it would be. I would love to be. I was thinking, and there's so many people who have made careers, haven't they, out of being pantomime dames. It's a thing. I was thinking of Les Dawson, and they're held in. Although they're also slightly silly, that they're held in. I think they're held in with genuine affection and esteem. By the audience. People kind of take it. I think it's about being accepted. They are accepted for all of them, aren't they? That even when they're Widow Twanky's bad tempered and a bit cross and under pressure, but they're accepted, and people kind of go with them. That they're you laugh with them, not always at them.
Yes, very much. Yeah, and I think the engagement with the audience is much more in that kind of role than I think it's perhaps a bit more childhood me would want to be the fairy. Maybe adult me would actually prefer the bit where you get the rapport with the audience, being the dame. Karen says she would be wishy-washy. I am no princess.
Oh, Karen, you are a princess. You are you're a queen. But yeah, it's that joy. I think you're right. It's the affection with which the dame, however outrageous they are and however silly and whatever they're doing, they're kind of held. They're held in great affection, aren't they? So
definitely. Fantastic. Well, I have to say, Jenny, this has been a really fantastic and fun episode. Thank you, Karen, for all your comments as well. And hope that any of you that are listening, either here live or on the podcast, hope you've enjoyed the show and it's given you some food for thought in terms of pantomimes. It's not just about going to the theatre at the traditional time of Christmas. There's some crossover messages with the world of work as well. So certainly been an
Well,
interesting.
and life possibly, not just
Yeah,
work, but life generally.
yeah,
And we'd love to know if you've booked your tickets. What's your favourite pantomime?
yeah.
Who are you going with? Are you going? When are you going? So we love a bit of follow up from the show. So please feel free to let us know any of your pantomime tales. We would love it. Um, we'd love to hear what
Yes.
your pantomime is.
Absolutely. Please do share with us. And in the meantime, we will be back again in 2 weeks' time, which will be the 18th of December. Gosh, it seems we're rapidly approaching Christmas seemingly from nowhere. And we will have another festive theme for that show, which we will talk about a bit more nearer the time. But thank you very much for joining us today, and we hope you can join us again very soon.
It's been a joy as ever. I've loved our conversation. It doesn't really matter what we talk about. We always find something juicy, don't we?
Yeah,
So I
absolutely.
hope you've enjoyed it. Until next time, be inspired, be brilliant, and we'll see you next time. Bye for now.
Bye.